Hi Jack, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Saw your series on Art of Football and then we started chatting. Really glad to be speaking to you about it. But before we get into that, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I live in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I've got quite a normal job, just website management, e-commerce, customer service, all that
Right.
boring stuff. So yeah, I just really love doing some football writing on the side to keep things a little bit interesting. I started my own blog years and years ago, 2015, I think, just
Okay.
summer holiday university, and I was just kind of bored, to be honest. And yeah, I've jumped from website to website, just writing for different people. And I'm currently with both the Football Pink and Heart of Football. And yeah, that's been a really fun opportunity.
I was really excited to see your series on Heart of Football. If you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the premise of the series is that I've interviewed one fan from every country that went to the World Cup in 2018. Yeah, so 32 fans, one from each country. And yeah, I just figured everybody knows about the games, the stories. France won the World Cup. There was that awesome Argentina France game. There was that 5-0 Saudi Arabia Russia, the Spain 3 Portugal 3. People know all these famous games. They've seen the images. You can watch every goal, pretty much every game on YouTube now. And that's great. That's perfect. But
Mm.
what makes a World Cup special to me is the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible seeing people from all around the globe coming for this just month long party of football and
Mm.
just everything. It's incredible. And I thought, you've got people that are literally selling houses to buy tickets to fly to Russia or
Yeah.
Brazil, South Africa. People have such cool stories to tell. And I thought it's just a nice way of collating it and getting a picture of everyone that went to the World Cup. And yeah, it was just been a real pleasure to find out about some of these stories.
It's a brilliant idea, man. I really love the idea. And as I was going through it over the past few days, it's filled with these heartwarming stories of family, friendship, and something that I like to talk about also on this podcast, which is about how football can bring people together, man, in the strangest of ways.
Absolutely. It wasn't the reason that I started it as such, but I think what's become clear is the news has just been depressing for a
Mm.
year now. I
Yeah,
mean, the news is the news. There's always some tragedy going on, but when was the last time you listened to the news and you were uplifted
yeah,
between COVID and political struggles and this and that and everything? It's just been a horrible year. So the fact that I've got these articles coming out that, firstly, it's based on a couple of years ago, it's based in the World Cup. So from that instant standpoint, it's just happier memories. I mean, I don't know about you, if I think of any World Cup, it just kind of gives you a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling inside.
yeah,
And when you've got these people telling you these amazing memories and these things that I've had to push a couple of people because when I ask them about their memories, they say Russia's great, the architecture's cool, the people are nice, and that's awesome to hear.
yeah.
But I really like to dig in and go, everybody said that. What was your experience and what was unique to you? And as soon as you start asking that and you probe a little bit deeper, I mean, it's not even anything. Yes, some people have very cool stories about meeting footballers or about maybe this once in a lifetime thing that happened. But there's one guy in a later episode that's not released yet who it was just having a couple of beers with his dad.
Mm.
And it was their dream to go to the World Cup. And they did it. And they're in the outskirts of Moscow in these tiny little dive bars, just chatting away, having a couple of beers, discussing the day's football. Again, that's nothing too crazy, but it's just a really nice memory, and you can tell it means a lot to him. I'm aware that's not the most exciting story to maybe sell the series on, but it's just all about what makes the World Cup special to you, and that's why it was fun researching it, and honestly, it's fun just seeing the reaction. People seem to really be glad, like the people that I've asked, the participants, they seem genuinely quite happy to see that someone cares about their stories.
That's a wonderful story, man. Two that I really, really liked was one was about Daniel from
The
Uruguay.
Uruguayan,
Yeah,
One of my favorite stories. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that story. And even Ahmed from Saudi,
He came for one game one day. Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that story. And even the lady from Egypt, Aya,
Yeah.
she had such a wonderful time. And because she was apprehensive about going to Russia. And that's the other thing. You know, there was a lot of that around that time, I remember, that people were apprehensive about. But what you've put together, that really wasn't the case.
Well, it's funny you've given those three examples. The Uruguayan came for a couple of weeks from the other side of the world. The Saudi Arabian, he was, I think, 24, 36 hours, and he was
Right,
there and gone, taking a match, taking a meal, and left. Both obviously paying what I assume would be vast sums for flights alone.
right, right.
And then you've got Aya, who she's come across. She's gone to work. She's gone to volunteer at the World Cup,
Hmm.
and it's amazing the different ways that people will go.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to speak to him myself, but there was someone from Peru that literally sold a house
Wow.
to get because Peru. I can't even remember. It was either the 70s or the 80s, I think, the last time they were at a World Cup. And he went, well, I was 10 then, I'm 40 now. I don't want to wait and chance it and be 80 going to my next World Cup if I can get here. So you've got that. You've got people that can go and stay in 5-star hotels and fly first class. It's just the different scope, and it's great because to me, the World Cup, it just unites people. It doesn't matter if you're there for the month, for a day, if you're paying lots, if you're in a shoestring budget. If you can get there and you have a good time, that's what the World Cup's all about.
And I was surprised by the number of people who came in for just one game.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're not cheap, and especially a place like Russia, it's vast. But I guess a lot of that is if they're coming to support their country,
Yeah.
like you and me, who it's hard to imagine India and Scotland reaching the World Cup anytime soon. I'm sure if we were to go, we could almost have more fun basing ourselves in a city. Like, yeah, say it's Russia again.
Yeah.
If you're in St. Petersburg, instead of going, I'm going to follow Brazil here, here, and here, you just go, right, I've got a week. I can afford to see this many matches. Let's take it in. That's actually, for all I sometimes complain about Scotland not getting to the World Cup, in a way, I think it's a bit of a blessing as to why I love it so much. Because I stumbled onto liking football in about April 2006. So I got a Champions League final, I got the World Cup, and that was my introduction to football, basically. So instead of getting disappointed because Scotland lost 3 games and are out the World Cup or whatever, it was just the chance to see these incredible teams, these amazing players. And obviously there were teams I wanted to win. There were players I wanted to see do well, but I didn't have an allegiance. And it just gave me a real appreciation for the tournament. And that's something that, especially because Scotland still haven't qualified for one, yeah, I've just kept that passion of, yeah, I want certain teams to do well, but if a team plays good football, I'm going to want to watch them win. And I think that's also why I enjoy this fan aspect so much, because growing up, not having your own fans there, you get to see the enjoyment of, I mean, my first World Cup, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, and Angola all made their debuts. Australia were there for the first time since, again, I think the 70s. It was getting to see these fans live a dream, live a once in a lifetime opportunity. And yeah, well, take Togo. That was their first World Cup. They have not progressed particularly as a football nation, so they might never make one again. So yeah, it's just great to enjoy that experience while you can.
You've got a nice mix of people. You've got men and women and all sorts of age groups. So how did you go about finding these guys?
So it started off as a very time-consuming process. I tried filtering on Twitter, just searching for keywords, looking at pictures, videos, but that just felt like such a dead end because it's a very hard system to try and get through. So ultimately, I used Instagram.
Okay.
And because FIFA, with the World Cups, they like do a nice little hashtag of, yeah, Argentina against England. It's hashtag ARGENG or
Right.
whatever. You just type that in, scroll back to the 2018 results, and I would just go through. And ideally, it was pictures of them at the game or in and around the stadium. So that's how I started doing it. Obviously, there are a lot of different languages. There was a lot of people that I would message and you'd get nothing back because I mean, why would you? It's some complete stranger messaging you out the blue about a photo you took in 2018.
Mhm.
When I think about it like that, that's quite weird. But let's try. But yeah, it was a very long process. I think I started the project in June 2020, and it got to a point I didn't get a final answer on a couple of things until January of 21. Obviously, there was a period in that where I'd almost tried to cool off a bit so I could get the motivation to start going again. But
Yeah.
yeah, on and off, that was about 7 or 8 months of just plowing away at it.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, man.
Yeah. So I was lucky and unlucky because of the pandemic. Unfortunately, my job that I had a couple of years ago fell through
Oh,
in March this year. But silver lining was I had a lot of time on my hands. So yeah, the idea literally just popped into my head one day. Um, I was trying to think of an idea for an article or something, and I think I must have just seen a World Cup highlight on my phone and thought, yeah, let's take this and let's run with it. And I didn't. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of points where I thought, why am I doing this? This is so much effort for something that nobody's going to read, no one's going to see. But I'm so glad that I stuck with it because genuinely it is the most rewarding thing seeing this go up every week and seeing people reacting to it, seeing the views from around the world. It's such a thrill when you get views from completely not even related countries. Like today alone, there's been views from Israel, Moldova, Ghana.
lovely,
There's no real reason, but it's just great fun seeing it come out.
lovely, really. But I'm glad you stuck
Yeah.
with it, man. I'm glad you stuck with it because and it really shows the kind of effort that you've taken and to put this together. And I'm really glad I came across it.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so glad that you did come across it because Heart of Football has so many incredible stories there. Not just my World Cup series. I mean, we've got a team of guys that have covered Canadian football. There's a great football manager series on there. There's a really good article on Indian football, actually. That's another one.
Yeah,
Project 34, I think it's called.
yeah,
Um, yeah, there's book reviews. It's such a great site. And unfortunately, the football freelance marketplace is just so saturated. It's really difficult to get views. So, yeah, my hope is that this brings about some readers from around the world. I'm really hoping this series snowballs a little bit. We've got great momentum where, yeah, we've had groups A through D published. We've got 4 more to go. So I'm just really hoping that we can get some shares, we can get some views, and not just for my articles, but I really hope this just brings some eyeballs to the whole site in general, and we can get this great team some opportunities going forward.
really love the name Heart of Football. And there's a series on there which is about championship manager and football manager. Another thing that I find so interesting, so many people, half of the people that I've interviewed have discovered the club in career mode.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean sometimes, I mean yeah, most people have exposure to the league of the country they live in, and then they'll have a good knowledge, I guess, of English, Spanish, French, German football. Maybe people might have ideas of football around the world. I could name you teams from a bunch of countries without really being able to tell you much about them. But Football Manager just they can give you an affinity with a club.
Yeah,
I mean, I know myself. There's clubs dotted around the world that I still look out for results now and then, based purely on Football Manager
yeah.
from 2000 something. It's crazy. But yeah, it's a great series, and Richards he's put so much work into it, and it's nice. That's one of those series that people just seem to keep on going back to, even when the new game is out. I think it's part 3 of his Football Manager 2020 series just gets view after view day in day out. It's really commendable. It's a great series. There's 2 stories that I really enjoyed above all else. You mentioned one before. It was Daniel's, the representative from Uruguay, and I can't remember how old he is. I think he's in his 40s maybe. He came across with some friends, and he said it was just incredible. It's this really, really poetic thing he wrote about basically walking through the streets of Moscow, through the fan fests, and you had people in Spain shirts, Germany, Brazil, all these colors, and they were the only Uruguayan shirts that he could see. And it was just one of those weird ones where he talks about how it was like a drop in the ocean, and people seemed to really want to speak to them because they were Uruguayan and it was someone new to speak to in a different country. And it was just really, really quite beautiful. I think especially being so early on in the series as well, that's fantastic. And I'm just so glad that I could hear that story. And especially being Group A, that made it so worthwhile because I thought this is exactly the kind of story that I want to be telling people. Because again, it's nothing particularly special. If you think about it in the most basic term, it's a guy walk down the street in a football shirt and people talk to him. Like in a different context, that sounds like the most boring story. And yet when you think about what he's saying and how he's saying it, it's just incredible. And you can tell how much it meant to him. And he's got some really great pictures on there. What else do we have? Iceland, our resident Viking for Iceland. He's been a real ambassador for the series. You can see him on our cover art for Group D and for the introduction. He went 3 times to the World Cup. I think he went for a group game. I think he came back again, and then he won a competition to go and see a semi-final match. And yeah, he was living the dream. That's what everybody wants to do. And yeah, in terms of overall theme, it's probably been said to death, but everybody seemed to have the same little talk about how they're apprehensive coming to Russia. They'd heard about the bad side. And I think the positive thing is everybody had a glowing review of Russia. Everybody came away and said, we're not trying to say it doesn't exist, but we're saying we didn't experience it. We don't know anyone that experienced it. We had a great time. It was just really nice to know that the stereotype had been put to bed a little bit.
You're at the halfway point. So the series comes out every Wednesday, right?
Yeah, every Wednesday, round about 8:30 GMT, because based in the UK. So it comes out then. Obviously, it's groups E through H, and there's some really good stories. There's some incredible people out there. It's on Heart Football every Wednesday. I am sharing it probably to death on my own Twitter page. And yeah, just if you've got any interest, check it out. They're all great, but if you're looking for one to test the water on, I would very much try Group D as the starting point. That's just 4 really cool stories with some excellent people.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jack, for coming on Faraway Fan. Thank
you so much for having me. It's been great to talk about my series and to big up the team at Heart of Football. And yeah, I'm really starting to enjoy the podcast. I've listened to a couple of them now, and you're doing some top work here yourself.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate that. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. Thanks so much.
Cool, man. You take care.
Cool. Have a nice one. Bye.